Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about how to use a sous vide to prepare your ice cream base. First things first, for those that don't know what a sous vide is, it is a water circulator that heats the water up at the same time and keeps it there at that temperature for whatever length of time you set it for. It's been used in high-end restaurants for years. And probably for the last 10 years, they've become reasonably popular in a home environment. They're excellent for cooking things like steak. Steak is excellent because if you know the internal temperature of how you like your steak, then you can set the water to that temperature, cook it for the relevant amount of time. Then you know that your steak isn't overcooked and chewy. Remove it from there and then sear it in a pan as you would do normally. Then you've got a perfectly cooked steak. You don't have to worry about internal thermometers and, you know, if someone talks to you and you've overcooked it by a couple of minutes. I've had my sous vide for probably just over a year here. I had one back in the UK. You can get them with Bluetooth and, you know, apps and stuff like that. You don't need those, but, you know, buy what's right for you. So in today's video, we're going to prepare an ice cream base using our sous vide. And during that time, I get to talk about the sponsor of the video, Vevor. Now, Vevor have kindly supplied me with this commercial grade vacuum sealer. So when you do sous vide, you seal it up into a vacuum bag. We'll talk about that in a minute. You don't need one this big. I, for years, used a tabletop one. They're okay, they do the job. They take a while and they don't extract as much air as one like this. So what we're going to do is get this machine set up. It's not even been used yet. Talk quickly about the process, make an ice cream, churn it as quickly as we can. Now, although this machine was given to me, I am not going to automatically say it's great. I will give you an honest opinion. There's a lot of people that watch this channel that own ice cream scoop shops, ice cream businesses, and a lot of people use these in the US to just increase the longevity of their food. You can use these to store anything. So if you make something, let's just say, this is an ice cream channel. If you make ice cream cones, it's a bit of a pain to set it up, clean it, pack it away for, you know, an event or whatever it might be. Using something like this, you can actually make them in bulk and then you can just vacuum seal them up and put them in a cupboard. They'll last years. You can do this for pretty much anything. So anything that deteriorates with oxygen can be made to last for huge amounts of time. Beef jerky. I eat a lot of beef jerky. This is a great way to store that. Make it, get it down to the moisture level that you need, and then store it in a vacuum sealed bag. It will outlast any that you buy in the stores by a Kentucky mile. I don't know where that saying comes from. If you're from Kentucky, let me know. So we need to prep this. We need to clean it. And I think I need to read the instructions. So let me have a quick read and I'll come back to you. Reasonable, it's kind of what you'd expect from a Chinese company. The translation is okay. One thing I did note is there's something here where it says the opposite of actually what you want to do. It says we need to fill the pump with oil first. It came with the oil. It says remove the fixing bolt from the back of the machine. Fine. Then it says turn on the machine. And actually what it should say is turn off the machine. Because what we're going to do is we're going to open this thing up. We're looking at this currently, the inner workings. If you turned it on like the instructions said, you are putting yourself in danger. So please make sure that your machine is not plugged in and not turned on. All right, we don't want anyone to get hurt. So that's problem number one, the instruction manual. So what we need to do according to the instructions is, let me lower the camera a bit so you can see it better. Is we need to fill this up so the oil level is around half. It says specifically here not lower than half, not higher than 3/4 on this window. So that is what we can do. We've got our lid off. It came with the oil. There we go. There we go. That is how much I had to put in there. So we're down to about 140 milliliters. I'd say that's pretty much spot on where it needs to be. So we've got some top up oil left that we can store away for now. So with our oil level exactly where it needs to be, we're going to clean the top here. Like so, making sure no debris goes in. We've got our little O-ring that's on here as well. Make sure that stays on. And then let's fit that. Not too tight, but tight enough. There we go, we're prepped. So with our oil level filled, we can close our machine back up. This is a first for the channel. Big sponsor, Vevor. So when speaking to them about this machine, you know, I spoke to a few of my customers for Polar Ice Creamery and a couple of people that support me on YouTube, and they own ice cream scoop shops. So it's not all about home, it's also about commercial. I help people with their businesses and their home ice cream making. It's a full service thing that I have going on. If you're not interested in this, you can prepare an ice cream base in exactly the same way, but as this is the first sous vide video, we're going to talk through the whole process. So there we go. That is our machine ready to be used. So if you've never used a sous vide machine, you need to vacuum pack the product that you put into it. So for us, ice cream. You can buy it in rolls like this. This one is actually a tiny little bit too big for this machine. Yeah, it's about a centimeter, 10 millimeters too big. But get lots of different sizes of vacuum bags. You can get them pre-sealed at the end. Because I use this for commercial environments, when I go to my customers' locations, I just make this to the size required and then I run the machine and seal it. I'm going to show you how this process works before we actually get onto the ice cream. So we've got 500 milliliters, 500 grams worth of water. I've already sealed the end of this bag. We're going to assume that this is our ice cream base. We lay it in our machine like so. Lift up the bar, put the bar back down, and close the lid like so. You can change the time of the vacuum process. You can change the time of the sealing time. You can also change the time of the cooling as well. The cooling is once the bag end has been sealed, how much time it remains there in place until the bar drops down. So all we have to do to start is press go. You always just rest your hand on the top and you can see this gauge now. And there it is. Lift our bar up. Our sealed bag of ice cream base with no air in there at all. It's done a really good job. The small machines that are a couple of $100 on Amazon, they do a terrible job of sealing this up. You get pockets of air throughout, but this one has done a really nice job. It's taken all that air out. A really nice sealing job. So considering this is obviously a liquid, if you do this with a solid, it's more obvious to the eye how much air has been taken out. This has done a really nice job of this. So we know that that's 500 milliliters. We can get more in there. So that is how a vacuum sealer works. This one is really nice. I'm really, really happy with how this one operates. With that in mind, I wish there was one function on this that it doesn't have, and that is just to seal the bag on its own without running the vacuum, without running the entire process of vacuum sealing. If you use the rolls of vacuum bag like I do, you want the means to seal that bag on its own. And some of the other machines, you can put the bag in like that, press seal, and it will just seal it straight off for you. So you can do that with this. You can go into the settings, adjust the time of the vacuum to 0, and then you can seal your bag. But it would be really nice to have just a heat seal button on the front there. So we can press, it will seal the end of the bag, and then we're good to go. But that's probably the biggest downsides, 2 downsides, maybe 3. It's really heavy, but it's a commercial grade machine. So it's probably a little bit heavier than the Muso, but hey, I'm going to enjoy using this one. For now, what we're going to do is get this off the top. We're going to prepare an ice cream base. Right, so the first thing we need to do is fill up our container with water. So I filled that up to 4 quarts or 4 litres, basically the same thing. There's an ever so slight difference between a quart and a litre, but it's just not enough to worry about. So what we now need to do is to get our sous vide in our water, and so we're going to set the temperature to 80 centigrade, which is about 175 Fahrenheit. 50 minutes. So our machine is circulating. If you've never tried sous vide before, here you go. I'll take a video so you can actually see what's happening. The water is moving around. Those holes down the bottom they contain a heating element, and they also have the little propeller that moves that water around. Mine is this brand. It works absolutely wonderfully. I don't need to stress about it. At the top we can see the current temperature is 105 F. We're going for 175. So we're just going to leave that to tick over. While we do that, let's prepare our base. We're going to do a boozy maple gelato. So I bought this Wayne Gretzky maple Canadian cream. We would call this liqueur back in England. Call it whatever you like. Liqueur, I don't care what you call it. But this is the stuff. This stuff gives me serious acid when I drink it on its own. So we're going to use it in this. I balanced this recipe to reduce the amount of sugar. Can you substitute allulose and xylitol in here? Allulose, maybe, you'll need to reduce the amount a little bit. Xylitol, no, because when we use xylitol, we have to reduce the amount by almost 50%. Actually, to some degree, it's a little bit more. And because the alcohol in this will affect the freezing point, or the pack, if you will, if you're getting into the science of ice cream, we can't add too much of it, which means our solids become really low. So the solids in this is down to, I'll put the numbers up on the screen in a minute, but we're kind of like low 30s, which is really as low as you want to go. When I tried to balance this with xylitol, we got solids down to about 24%, which is just too low. So with that in mind, all we need to do while this is preparing is mix up our ingredients. I mean, yeah, you've got to have all this gear, but people want to see different ways of making ice cream. This is it. 606 grams of milk and 120 grams, that's 2% milk. You can use whole milk, it's fine. We're going to use 120 grams of our 33% whipping cream. And into that, we're going to add our 40 grams of skim milk powder. We're going to mix our sugar with a stabilizer. Because of the solids being so low, get my recipe back up, because the solids are so low, we need to stabilize this recipe. There's a lot of free water in here. So we're going for 126 grams of sugar. Not a lot of sugar. Into that, we are adding, if I can get the lid off, 4.5 grams of my stabilizer blend. This is not my stabilizer blend. This is Special Ingredients stabilizer blend. If you are using just guar or xanthan, reduce that down to about 3.5 grams. Otherwise, you might end up over-stabilizing it, and we don't want that. So, with our dry ingredients, I need to get a new mini whisk. In there, we're just gonna stir our sugar and our stabilizer together. Got a lump there, let's get that out. There we go. And put that in there. Final ingredient is our maple liqueur. 100 grams. Here we go. 100 grams. This is 17% alcohol. It smells delicious. Maple, big Canadian thing. It's not as crazy big as people want you to believe, but there's a lot of places to get it. Don't buy the cheap tourist maple stuff that they sell at the tourist locations. Buy something decent. So, with that in mind, we can stir this up. One thing I should have done, and I forgot, is try and put your sous vide container on something. A towel, a trivet, anything, just to kind of, it has been known in the past for some of the containers to crack certain countertops. Quartz can do it, marble won't do it, granite shouldn't do it. Remember, you're heating things up to close to 100 degrees centigrade just for some cooking things. This is 80 degrees centigrade, so it shouldn't have any negative impacts on anything, but better to be safe than sorry. So we're mixing this up here. We're at 150 Fahrenheit now, so we're getting close. I can feel that the sugars are now dissolved, skim milk powder's dissolved. In goes our maple liqueur. Like so. It's a strong flavour, we don't want to go any higher than that. And there's our base. Let's move some stuff out of the way, because what we now need to do is prepare a vacuum bag. So I'm going to use my Vevor vacuum sealer here. If you have bags already ready to go, then find the one that fits. We're going to seal this off. Definitely a negative point of this machine is you need to have the vacuum set to something. It won't seal this bag. It won't put that arm up and seal this bag if you set the vacuum to 0. So even if you set it to 5 seconds, it's gonna help. So there's our bag. What we now need to do is to get our base in here. You can do this in a couple of ways. Some people struggle doing this, but however you do it, it's completely up to you. I like to just put the bag into something like this and pour it in. This is 1 litre, so this is gonna tell us whether our vacuum sealer will take a 1 litre bag. We're going to change our setting to 35 seconds on vacuum time again. Bags will float in sous vide, or sometimes they will float. So if you can get something heavy, these are sous vide weights. Just pop one in there. They're food grade, it will go in there and will stop your bag floating in your water. So there is our mix. We're going to put it in here. Let's see if this will... You'd lean down on the top just for a couple of seconds until that vacuum starts, then you can let go. Well, it will not cope with 1 litre of base, this machine. That's a shame. That is everywhere. That's going to take some serious cleaning up.
5 hours later.
Turns out that that was just too much for that vacuum bag. 1 litre of liquid in that bag was not going to happen. So you will figure out the maximum amount of size required for your bag. New machine, got to figure it out somehow. Doesn't say in the instructions. We ended up losing about 200 grams worth of mix because what happened was the smaller bag, when filled up with 1 litre of our base, just went everywhere in the machine before the seal took place. So you've got certain size bags will take a certain amount of liquid. You've got the size of your machine that will determine how much liquid or contents you can do. Liquid is always difficult, but we got to figure this out. Anyway, our remaining base, let's do this again. So my other vacuum sealer can deal with 1 litre of mix in that size bag, and it's much smaller. So we'll do 20 seconds worth of seal. Let's see if it goes again. Okay, it seemed to deal with that much better. So that's 750 grams, give or take 800 grams in a bag that looks like a 10-inch bag to me. So with that in mind, let's carry on. We've got our sous vide working here. Temperature's upright. We've got our weight in our bag. All we can do is just pop that inside like that. With the weight in, it's put our bag right down the bottom. We are just going to leave it in there now for 40 to 50 minutes. And I'm going to tidy up all this fucking mess. So all we need to do, we got ice bath here. We're going to take this out. Pop that in there. You can cool these mixers down really quickly because you can make them thinner in the bag, and that means that the heat transfer happens much faster. So with that in mind, it's cooling down really nice and quickly. We're gonna age this in the fridge. We're gonna age this for 24 hours. Let that flavor of the maple come out of this alcohol. We haven't burnt off any of the alcohol doing this, because it's all encapsulated within the bag. When we cook alcohol on the hob, you lose a lot of that alcohol. That vapor comes off, the ethanol vapor comes out. It can do funny things to the recipe because you start burning off some of that alcohol, and if you're accounting for that in your recipe for pack, so scoopability, it can play silly buggers with you. So let's put this in the fridge at least 24 hours. I mean, it's Friday. It's midday. I'm going to go out on my bike. Probably won't get back to this until Monday. So 3 days in the fridge. So have a good weekend. I'll see you in a couple of days. So I lost the audio for this bit, but essentially all I'm saying is it's Tuesday. I'm going to cut the corner off of my sous vide bag, load it into my ice cream machine and get it churning as normal. Then when that's done, get it dished up into a container and pop it in the freezer. Right, it's been a couple of days. Could smell that maple coming out. Let's get some dished up and into this bowl. Fancy new spinny thing. Look at that. Glorious texture, scooped perfectly, no dryness. Looking forward to trying this one. Fancy little spinny thing. Right, as I say, smell of that maple coming through. Oh, beautiful texture. Oh, that's so good. Ultra smooth, super smooth. Because it's gelato, we have higher levels of stabilizer because there's a lot more water, a lot less fat. In a normal American style ice cream, you would use, 0.1, 0.2%. You'd use 1 gram, maybe 2 grams max per kilo of base. Gelato, you can double that and maybe even a little bit more. It's got the perfect amount of maple flavor. This alcohol, let me just grab it. the Wayne Gretzky maple liqueur or liqueur, depending on where you are in the world. 17% alcohol. Use anything that is approximately 17% alcohol content. You could probably get down to 14%, maybe go up to 20%. I wouldn't go any further than that because you're going to really mess up the freezing point of this recipe. So with that in mind, there's loads of liqueurs that have this kind of alcohol content, Bailey's being one of them. So give this one a try. Delicious maple boozy gelato made in a sous vide with our sponsor Vevor supplying the chamber vacuum machine. Worked amazingly. A couple of little things really that I wish it had. I'm going to keep playing with the Vevor vacuum chamber because I quite like using the sous vide, and I get asked all the time to make recipes in different kind of ways, so sous vide is another wonderful way of doing it. We can do some really nice special things with that as well. So if you want to see some more of these sous vide recipes, then let me know in the comments. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's fall or autumn. That means the last campfires, and I've got something special coming up for that. So see you next time.